Good morning, everyone. I'm John O'Loughlin. Welcome to McDuff Lives. And this morning I'm doing one of my mind fields, which is kind of an opportunity for me to just stretch my thoughts out in whatever direction seems to be correct to me at the moment. Some of it's opinion, some of it is interesting facts that I didn't know before. I want to share with you, and some of it is just my deep reflection on the big picture of history, American history, all the way back to Babylon and the incredible story of the Western civilization that was never really told to us honestly and still has a lot to be revealed. So these are just my efforts to share my mind with you. And this is the thought that I had today. And I had it this weekend, and it's kind of developed over the past few hours into my campaign for Richard Stans for president. All right. And Richard Stans, let's give him a round of applause, is the man for whom our Pledge of Allegiance was composed. At least that's what we thought in elementary school. I wonder if you thought perhaps the same thing. Well, what I like about Richard Stans is that Richard Stans has a republic, and a republic is the best form of government that has been created yet by mankind. And this America depends upon it being a republic, or else it will fall apart. So I like Richard Stans because he has a republic. Now, what else does he have in his republic? He has liberty and justice for all. Liberty and justice for all. Now, some people will quibble with you about what liberty means. Is it just a word for a slave that got freed but still has to stay within the bounds of his law or his culture? Or does it just mean freedom, like out in the old Wild West where there was a frontier and you could just go wherever you wanted to go? And that, of course, is the attitude of liberty that many people hold dear without trying to fine tune the fine points of how the word developed through history. What we understand liberty to be is freedom as Americans. This is American freedom. This is what we are. We are free people. And down in Texas, somebody wrote a really nice fiddle tune called Liberty, which I love to play. And so this is a celebration of the greatness of liberty. Now, justice for all. Well, that's the ideal, isn't it? Justice is hard to find sometimes, and when you think you've got it, maybe some new information comes along, and you realize, nope, that wasn't really right. Let's consider this and add a little bit more into our thought process so that our reasoning is leads to truth. And that's what we try to do when we get an education and we try to learn some basic facts like the skeleton of English history, where you have all the kings of England and the queens of England and the fights and the revolutions and all that stuff, is like it provides a student with a kind of a framework, uh, a, uh, a, a something to hang their further knowledge upon. If you know that Columbus sailed the ocean blue in 1492, then that gives you like, if later in life you're thinking, well, how does all this stuff fit together in chronology? So, well, at least you got that point, on your line. You can say, okay, this is one point, and it's 1492, and that's when Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Well, 1776, another point on your line. And what happened in 1776, guys? Well, we had the American Revolution and other things, other dates. Um, some of them should be important and are not as remembered as they should be. Certainly, uh, November 22nd, 1963 should be a day that has a black frame around the calendar number to remind everybody that that was the day that our last freely elected president was assassinated in favor of a coup d'etat. And then we would all realize that, we never got rid of that coup d'etat, did we? So when we are with our friends and talk about things and find that we've got some things in common and we kind of like to hang out, and maybe some of us, like to dress up like patriots and hang out that way, and some of us might like to knit pink hats for displaying their solidarity with femininity. These kind of things sometimes happen, or without anybody planning it at all. But if you make a habit of critically examining things, then it doesn't take long before you realize that no, this is not organic or spontaneous. These things are organized, and this is all part of what's called the Great Wurlitzer of Allen Dulles, first the head of the CIA for 10 years. The Great Wurlitzer that publishes more and more and more nonsense to distract us so that eventually we succumb to what uh, another CIA director later said, that if we are successful, then the American people will will not know the truth from falsehood. That American people will not know what to believe, and that completes their message, their mission in psychological warfare against the American people. Now, who would wage psychological warfare against their own people? Well, that would be done by the coup that killed President Kennedy, right? And who was part of that coup? Nobody more than Allen Dulles and his coterie of sycophants and murderers, and the people that he works for. Of course, it's Sullivan and Cromwell and all of the great oil companies and all the interests of foreign banks in France and Germany and Great Britain, Spain, other places in Europe that he actually represented them while he was representing American corporations. And you can see what he's really doing is he's building a world cartel, a cartel of business people that will take care of each other as long as they take care of them. And that's, you know, been revealed by Charles Higham in his great book, Trading with the Enemy, and many, many other ways. You can see what happened. I made reference last week to a new video from Mark Felton, the British filmmaker, who basically just lays it all out in a half hour, everything I've been teaching you for 7 years, that this was a coup, and that the coup started back in the post-war era when these Sullivan and Cromwell types, on behalf of their clients, uh, got the government lined up. Did they get rid of FDR? Maybe. They certainly got rid of Henry Wallace as a socialist objection to their plans. And so then they had the uh, rather naive Harry S. Truman come in and beat the rather corrupt Thomas Dewey, who was the Republicans' favorite. But it all turned out well because President Truman, being a Freemason, he understood the real purpose of America was to join back with Great Britain and to create this great white person's empire and rule the world, which, of course, he thought of himself, but actually, it's a great plan that's been in the works since long before Harry Truman was born. And, you can pick up a book anywhere and start studying Cecil Rhodes or a Milner or the Fabians. We have many, many videos that I've made here on the channel to help broadcast these facts that are part of our reality today. But that Harry Truman was, he was, in fact, part of a machine, a Pendergast machine, Democratic Party. So you see, there's the whole idea of we take care of each other and a little bit of graft here and there. It's going to happen anywhere. So turn the other eye against that. And so he gets to be the president. And what do they do but start shoving stuff at him, paper at him? This paper says, "Oh, there shall now be a national security council, and these guys are going to be like the closest advisor to the president. Isn't that nice, Harry? We're going to bring in some really smart people. So you can kind of relax, play a little more piano, maybe some poker with the guys at night. Yeah, but we'll take care of all the heavy thinking for you because we're the National Security Council, right?" So all these insiders got put on the NSC, and they decided they needed some more paper to get signed by good old Harry. Give him hell, Harry, right? And good old Harry, was very, very happy to assign things like, oh, the Atlantic Charter, the NATO Charter. The NATO Charter, which gives away our sovereignty if one believes what it says. Well, under Article 5, that wow, we've just entered into a a binding oath with other countries. It's like a Western defense pact, but it also integrates the structure of our intelligence services and our military and right back into the hands of the British, who have always been trying to divide and conquer this country in order to take back all of our resources and land. Well, what are we going to do about it? What indeed? What are we going to do about it? Oh, you're going to get a AK-47 and start practicing? That's an interesting idea. Maybe just some really good night vision so you can see things coming beforehand, and maybe you're going to start having a little secret you know, meeting, kind of like the old Irish, the pikes must be together at the rising of the moon. So you get your kind of pikes together, which really be something else by now, and you have a little secret, meeting that nobody's going to know about, right? Well, wait a minute. Aren't there all these satellites up there now? I mean, all of these Starlinks and then all these other ones that are military. You don't know what the hell they're doing, but it could be that they are spying on the American people on behalf of the coup d'etat that took over our government. It just could be. It's just a possibility that people ought to think about. That's all. I'm not saying it's true. And I'm not saying Elon Musk is part of it. I don't know. How would I know? Pardon me a second. And that's really the The upshot of the CIA's psychological warfare against us is that I don't know, and they're not going to let me know. But there is a very, very obvious divide and conquer strategy being played against us. And it is so much more technically and technologically and psychologically uh, planned and executed that it makes this US Civil War look like a rehearsal. You know, it was obviously you study the history and you can watch a number of my videos on it. It was the British that got the Southerners all riled up and then also it was British interests that created the abolition movement in the North and then sent John Brown out to Kansas to murder people and have a that was the Black Swan event. Is it that these are the people that make the Black Swan. The Black Swans. Yeah, you thought maybe Black Swan events was like, like there might be in a flock of geese, all the white ones, but then I mean a flock of swans, all of them are white except for every once in a while one of those is weird. Where did that come from? How did those two white ones or their grandparents ever, it's just it's unbelievable. And so we had a Black Swan event over in Western North Carolina, in the Appalachians there, where the good people all descend from our early settlers, many of them from the Revolutionary War fighters that won our freedom in the first place and lived there in liberty and peace and justice with their own courts and their own ability to protect themselves. So these people could be independent thinkers and, didn't really need to have Netflix or even a television or any technology. They were doing fine and they were living old too, living 80, 90 years old. Old people, you saw them in rocking chairs with a little corncob pipe rocking back and forth. And while all the generations of their kin are out there, working in the agriculture, going hunting, or just goofing off, going fishing, loving life, the life of Mayberry and Sheriff Andy Taylor. Those folks, they were not really wanted, especially when they're sitting on top of some really valuable minerals. And they don't know what the value of those minerals is and why in the world would they uh, ever figure out that they're very, very valuable. These people are stupid. They just like to live in the woods and smoke their corn cobs. What's wrong with these people? So this is why we have Freemasonry, because Freemasonry allows there to be levels, where you have your first degree and your blue degrees and your first 3 degrees, and then you have your higher degrees, where the higher you get, the closer you get to the real deal, which is above like the 33rd degree. Harry Truman was 33rd degree, so he thought he was like really good. But the people that pull the strings, I mean, Albert Pike told us about him. You can read about these ideas of some people are going to be leaders and some people are going to be slaves, and there are races and there is a competition, and that it is a world that is run by Satan, and therefore sometimes the best thing to do is to assume that Satan is using you to do evil for God's purposes here on this earth, because of the convoluted logic of people like the Frankists and a lot of the Albert Pike Southern jurisdiction Freemasonry. You see, they often use symbols like the obelisk, our great Washington Monument, and imitating Egyptian rites, Egyptian gods, uh, and really knitting people together, especially men, because women were not allowed at all, and they're and blacks were not allowed into the white lodges. But integrating these increasingly self-important men into a hierarchy. Well, another part of Freemasonry is dedicated to destroying Christianity. So this part, this French, this Grand Orient stuff, and this is where what we call the deep state today has its motives, the destruction of Christianity, because you cannot have a hierarchical, and that means an empire uh, government with when everybody's walking around thinking I'm going to treat everybody else like I'd like to be treated. I mean, and not stand by when someone is abused, and to be a godly person as much as you can, to act as though your soul depends upon your being good, being moral, being uh, a positive and good addition to the human race. Whereas the imperial form, which is always almost always been the form of government, requires submissive people, people that don't study history, don't care about history, do not have any real culture. They might, play some simple tunes and do some dances that are basically just rhythmic chants. And this is all just uh, so basic to life, the love of dancing and the love of rhythm and music, that these elites distinguish themselves from the other people by developing very, very sophisticated musical tastes. And along with their philosophy and along with their art, if a person can't appreciate a good piece of art, or understand, the uh, the majesty of Beethoven, then you're not one of us. You are one of these interchangeable serf types, and really, really good to have around in case of a war because you need them to be the infantry. So you're nice to them, you take care of them pretty much, but gosh, if there's too many of them, then you know what to do, right? There's a black plague, maybe, or some big war. Hey, let me call my cousin over there in Germany and see if we can't get something going. This is the cartel of all the powerful people, and isn't it true that as I've studied Sean Ross's amazing work, and he's got some new ones up there. I'm going to share a little bit of one with you, just because I think that it's just my sense that most of my subscribers and followers are inclined to vote for President Trump, and that's reasonable choice. Very few would be inclined to vote for Vice President Harris, and that's an even more reasonable choice. But what I plan to do is to just vote. Okay, I'm going to vote, and I'm going to go into a little booth that has a curtain behind me and assume that there's no little cameras watching me in order to exercise the most important of my rights, and that is to vote. And so I will vote. And as I said in the beginning of the show, I right now, and I could change my mind, but I'm planning to vote for Richard Stans. And I told you why. Because his republic is the republic I thought I grew up in. You know, I think it's a great place. And so our campaign motto is "Make America America Again." Yeah, those have got people of my age remember America. We had all kinds of problems, but we were America. We had liberty and justice for all, or at least that was the idea. And yeah, I mean, a lot has changed. There's a whole lot less of segregation and racism, at least in the common people, although it still exists, very strongly in those elites that profit from distinguishing themselves from the rest of humanity. But we've also suffered a great decline in American culture. We've had all of this digital entertainment forced upon our kids for 20, 30 years now. And it all take is to take them away from the Christian religion or Christian values that they grew up with. Um, why would I waste my vote? I'm not wasting my vote. Okay. I am voting because I want those damn usurpers to know that I am still an American citizen, that I am still going to be part of the electorate, and that you are still answerable to the electorate. And so, even if you put up a set of puppets, I'm not going to vote for your puppets, but I'm going to vote. And I'm going to vote for somebody that I believe in. And that's why I'm not voting for any of these puppets. Now, I was going to talk about President Trump. Well, I've always had a little sneaking suspicion about the bullet that magically um, grazed his ear. Uh, Apparently went through the ear and just left, and it happened because of just this. He turned to this uh, big scoreboard that he was reading something, and he's made reference to it later. He said, "Thank God for that scoreboard. That's my favorite scoreboard," or something like that. In other words, he turned his head and immediately the shot hits him, and he acts like he just got stung by a bee. He slaps his hand up to his ear, and then his hand comes down, and then he ducks down. Now, Sean Ross, I really think you need to watch this. So I'm going to play it, and I hope you don't have any emotional damage. Hang on, Sean. All right, here we go. So the point here is no blood on his hand, okay? And I'm just going to let Sean Ross explain it on his channel, Jure, on YouTube.
no blood on his hand. So here you see the hand of Donald Trump just the very moment after he had been allegedly shot. So the hand is just coming from his ear, and there's no blood. So on July 13th, 2024, 35 miles north of Pittsburgh, America, there was no blood on Donald Trump's hand. The blood suddenly appeared after having been hidden away from sight for a while under the table, like a poor magician's show. So here, one movement even further. The guy's still having his mouth open all the time here. So his hand moving from his head to here. And here it says, you see, there's still no blood. There is no blood on his hand. You can all see it. Then, taking an epic Hollywood pose with the US flag, of course, and obviously beforehand knowing that there never have been multiple shooters. And so did the agents. And here it says the theatrical inconsistency of an all-revealing unprofessionalism. Look at his hand. First of all, there's only 3 fingers here instead of 4, and there's still no blood on his hand. Now, I will let you watch the first slow-mo, that means slow motion, sequence in silence, a deafening silence. So here you can see it one more time. So now he's going to move his head. Look his mouth, he knows there's something going on, He's like squeezing his mouth. Now his hand is going there. There's no blood, people, there's no blood. The dumb slaves, they all believe it. Yeah, look at his mouth, how he's gonna squeeze his mouth like, oh, I'm preparing for something. Oh, okay, like, I have to do it now. This is the thing. Look at his mouth, like, okay, here it comes. This is what I have to do. Look, and now he does it again. No, he did it. And look, there's no blood. Like somebody concentrating, like a sportsman, or like, Here it says World War I injuries due to high-velocity rifles like 303 British or 792 Mauser caliber. In the army, I participated in multiple military campaigns, seeing friend and foe being hit by high-velocity bullets. And I can tell you that a caliber 223 would have ripped Trump's ear off due to the cavity following the trajectory, about which Trump's special effects Hollywood crew have no notion of, thinking they can sell their fantasy story by presenting it as if a needle had been stuck through someone's ear, probably by witnessing the ear piercing of their own daughter. Big error in calculation by those who have no clue about ballistics. Only very few professionals got the knowledge of a ballistical cavity making the actual hole and not the bullet itself. So they imagined the hole having the width of the diameter of the bullet, like slowly piercing an ear with a needle to hang an earring onto it. So this is called the permanent cavity here. This is the diameter of the bullet, like the caliber 223 in this case. And this is the temporary cavity, because of the enormous high speed, it blows up here and there's a pressure wave. So this is why, if you see the injuries of President Kennedy, JFK, the back of his head is gone. He got the bullet in front, and there are pictures of it. And with these high calibers, it blows everything up, really. At 3 times the speed of sound of an assault rifle's bullet at 900 meters per second is like the supersonic boom of a fighter jet breaking the sound barrier, which is an authentic picture here to the right of the jet. And to the left, you can see the bullet. A fighter jet can generally speed up to twice the speed of sound, and an assault rifle bullet 3 times the speed of sound. The speed of sound is 330 meters per second, or 1,000 kilometers an hour. So if you imagine the airplane here being the bullet, you can all imagine the cavity behind it influencing the size of the hole it would make, and make a hole 10 times as big as the size of the airplane or bullet itself. So here you see the supersonic boom and the air being pushed away, like an explosion. And it makes the sound of an explosion. It says boom, the supersonic boom. And here you see a high velocity bullet of a rifle. And it's exactly the same thing here. Upon entry, I think this must be the substance or the body or gel entering here. And you see the same thing here of the bullet as here, the supersonic boom of an airplane. And these are authentical pictures. The apparent special effects crew only recognized the permanent cavity, which is the diameter of the piercing needle or the caliber of the bullet, making the mistake of ignoring the stretch cavity due to the enormous velocity of the bullet. And then there is even a third ballistical law of physics called the shock wave, which a high-speed bullet can give to the blood, that sends a tsunami through the blood, leading to heart failure, cerebral trauma, also called brain stroke, or other internal damage. So here in blue, here it says is the indirect damage, like this here, the cavity called the stretch cavity, and here the direct damage, which is diameter of the bullet, and here is the shock wave, like a tsunami sending into the blood, going all the way to the heart or the brain or any other parts. It's the same mistake they made here when I explained you the impossible aeronautics due to flutter. The censorship has taken this video off.
And I'm going to stop there because Sean now goes into his previous work talking about 9. Well, you know what. Now, let me get back on screen and I want to now go to another source this morning. This is the recent essay by John Whitehead of the Rutherford Institute. John Whitehead, a distinguished lawyer who has been working on constitutional and American sovereignty issues for a long career. He's a very well respected writer. And let me get that text up because I want to share that with you next. And just so you can read it yourself, if you like, I'm going to share the screen. All right. And I'm just going to read into the essay until I have an idea about talking about stopping. So here we go. This is a quote from H.L. Mencken, the sage of Baltimore. Um, quote, "The most dangerous man to any government is the man who is able to think things out without regard to the prevailing superstitions and taboos. Almost inevitably, he comes to the conclusion that the government he lives under is dishonest, insane, intolerable." And Mr. Whitehead's essay begins here. If the three-ring circus, that is the looming presidential election, proves anything, it is that the deep state's plot to destabilize the nation is working. The danger is real. Caught up in the heavily dramatized electoral showdown between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, Kamala Harris, Americans have become oblivious to the multitude of ways in which the government is goose stepping all over our freedoms on a daily basis. Especially alarming is the extent to which, and this is a big one for me, listen to this, especially alarming is the extent to which those on both sides are allowing themselves to be gaslighted by both Trump and Harris about the critical issues of the day, selectively choosing to hear only what they want to hear when it casts the opposition in a negative light. This is true whether you're talking about immigration and border control, healthcare, national security, the nation's endless wars, protections for free speech, or the militarization of the U.S. government. For starters, there's the free speech double standard, which my good friend Nat Hintoff used to refer to as the free speech for me but not for thee phenomenon, in which the First Amendment's protections only apply to those with whom we might agree. Despite her claims to being a champion for the rule of law, which is, in our case, the U.S. Constitution, Harris isn't averse to policing so called hate speech. In this, Harris is not unlike those on both the right and left who continue to express a distaste for unregulated free speech online, especially when it comes to speech with which they might disagree. Then there's Trump, never a fan of free speech protections for his critics, who has been particularly vocal about his desire to see the military vanquish, quote, radical left lunatics, unquote, which he has dubbed the enemy from within. If it were only about muzzling free speech activities, that would be concerning enough. But Trump's enthusiasm for using the military to target domestic enemies of the state should send off warning bells, especially coinciding with the Department of Defense's recent reissuance of Directive 5240.01, which empowers the military to assist law enforcement, quote, in situations where a confrontation between civilian law enforcement and civilian individuals or groups is reasonably anticipated, unquote. Now, I'm going to just jump in here because it's apparent that our essayist John Whitehead is not a Trump fan, right? But Trump has dedicated his speeches to preserving the Constitution, to getting us out of NATO, to reinvigorating the dollar, to making America great again. And that is the big, wonderful message that his campaign announces, and people resonate with it as the way that I resonate with my third grade recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. It sounds like we're getting back home again. But wow, you do have to stop and say, hang on, this is not America. This is the hand behind the scene that has been manipulating us in favor of the already rich elites to consolidate this control over the entire planet. And once they get that, then they've got the empire that is the greatest empire that they could possibly dream of, greater than Alexander, greater than the popes, greater than the British Empire. As a matter of fact, it is the British Empire expanded worldwide. So, America, we have the Constitution, we have the Declaration of Independence, and we have the first government and the only one that preserves the rights of the people to change the government. The legitimacy of the government comes from the will of the people. It does not come from God. It does not come from the end of a gun. It does not result from some great emperors conquering the land. As long as we obey the Constitution and respect the rule of law, then we should be all right. But the only check that we have on these traitors is to vote. It's all we got. If we go out there and say, those hidden armies and the mercenaries that Biden and Harris are bringing in, they're going to pounce on us on J6 or J5, whatever it is this time. There's going to be a civil war. And on the left side, if you would listen to Jamie Raskin, Democrat of Montgomery County, Maryland, the richest liberal jurisdiction I can imagine, maybe in the world. This is CIA bedroom community, Montgomery County. Okay. Now, Jamie Raskin has bought into this NATO theory. Jamie Raskin has bought into the idea that democracy only includes people that go along with the NATO charter and with the reconsolidation of America into that great empire still run out of the city of London. And all of the things that go along with that. If you don't believe all that stuff, then you can't be part of democracy. And this, of course, this is all CIA and formerly OSS stuff of how to control the government. They did it in Italy with thugs and mafiosi and plane and train station bombs and the Catholic Church and the bribes and the propaganda to make sure that the communists didn't get in. And why did they do it? Because our national security depended upon Italy not being communist. So we did illegal things, but we justified ourselves by the National Security Council saying, well, plausible deniability, you can break the law, you can do whatever you want to as long as the government maintains its appearance of innocence. And that is the legacy of our post-war world. There are many, many culprits. Harry Truman being a useful idiot to the Dulles brothers. And so I guess the last word I would give you for today is sure, the Pledge of Allegiance. It's simple. It's the third grade thing. And then, you can sing My Country 'Tis of Thee if you like. These are the kind of rituals that bound us together as children and our country and our flag. And yeah, there was a lot of manipulation went on. Let's go over to one more source here, and I'll leave the rest of this essay at the Rutherford Institute for you to read on your own. Let's see what else we got. I knew I had one. Oh, I know what it is. This is a little history of the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance was written in August 1892 by the socialist minister Francis Bellamy. Wait a minute, a socialist? Socialist wouldn't be for America. Socialist would be for like the international workers of the world, the international. Come on, what's he talking about? Well, let's sort this out. The Pledge of Allegiance was written in August 1892 by the socialist minister Francis Bellamy. It was originally published in the Youth's Companion on September 8, 1892. Bellamy had hoped that the pledge would be used by citizens in any country. Oh, it wasn't for America, it was for the citizens of any country. In its original form, it read, I pledge allegiance to my flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, in 1923, the words, the flag of the United States of America, were added. At this time, it read, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In 1954, in response to the communist threat of the times, President Eisenhower encouraged Congress to add the words, under God, creating the 31-word pledge we say today. Bellamy's daughter objected to this alteration. Today it reads, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And then section 4 of the flag code describes it. The original Bellamy salute, first described in 1892, began with a military salute, and after reciting the words to the flag, the arms were extended toward the flag. Now, let us go over to the Wikipedia page for Mr. Bellamy. Because this is fascinating and very revealing. Okay, I'll share it for you. Here you go. Francis Julius Bellamy was an American Christian Socialist Baptist minister. Christian Socialist Baptist? Come on, what are you talking about? And author. He's best known for writing the original version of the Pledge of Allegiance in 1892. Born in Mount Morris, New York, his studied theology at the University of Rochester, became a Baptist minister, very influenced by vestiges of the Second Great Awakening. He traveled to promote his Baptist faith, and he ended up in Massachusetts, where he penned the Pledge of Allegiance for a campaign for the Youth's Companion. Okay, this is a little magazine, right? Hey, let's make some money, eh? Patriotic Circular and Magazine. Bellamy, quote, believed in the absolute separation of church and state, unquote, and purposefully did not include the phrase under God in his pledge. Okay, I know we're running out of time, but I'm going to break this down for you. The Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the Republic is a separation of church and state idea, that we are a republic and the republic is represented by the flag, right? And so we are going to take an oath that we will always have allegiance to the republic that is represented by the flag. Okay, there's a lot of people in the world, in this country, that have very strong feelings about the importance of God in government. And that portion of the public, or a public generally anywhere, is going to be more aligned with the idea of having a strong executive that is appointed by the people, but really sanctioned by God. Because we like to have a mixture of our God and our country to the same, God and country. How simple can it be? But that is the opposite of what Bellamy wanted to have, because he wanted the separation of church and state. Now, along comes our period, the 50s, right? And we've got this old pledge, but the whole point of the deep state, the Dulles brothers cabal, the combination of the Secretary of State and the head of the CIA acting with plausible deniability and sending thousands and thousands of people to their deaths without any conscience at all. Those people knew that they could keep control if they purported to be religious. And they played as if they believed in God. And they put that in the pledge under President Eisenhower in order, supposedly, to emphasize that communism is ungodly, and therefore we are the bastion of goodness against the evil empire of the USSR and China. That was a psyop. That is a divide and conquer psychological warfare technique used against the American people. Because now you have all of these separation of church and state people on the one hand and the under God people on the other hand, and they put it in there. And I confess myself, when I would say the Pledge of Allegiance, I didn't like to say under God, because it just didn't sound right, consistent with the Constitution. The Constitution doesn't say under God. So I didn't like to say it. Um, but I said it just because that was what we said. And most people probably never thought about the difference one way or the other. But that's it. So, and then this whole pledge was used to sell flags. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Because following that, there was this campaign to put a flag on top of every public school in America. Wow. So the Youth Companion, that publication we talked about earlier, had a campaign to sell U.S. flags to public schools as a premium to solicit subscriptions. The flag promotion was more than merely a business move. Under their influence, the Youth Companion became a fervent supporter of the schoolhouse flag movement, which aimed to place a flag above every school in the nation. 4 years later, by 1892, the magazine had sold U.S. flags to approximately 26,000 schools. By this time, the market was slowing for flags, but was not yet saturated. In 1892, Upham, which was one of the people at Youth Companion, had the idea of using the 400th anniversary of Christopher Columbus reaching the Americas. And when was that? Oh, 1492. He sailed the ocean blue to further bolster the schoolhouse flag movement. The magazine called for a national Columbian public school celebration to coincide with the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago in 1893. All right. Now, one more thing about Bellamy. The original pledge, back to it for a second. I pledge allegiance to my flag and to the republic for which it stands, one nation indivisible with liberty and justice for all. The recital was accompanied with a salute to the flag known as the Bellamy Salute, described in detail by Bellamy. There's no photograph of it here, but at least we get a link to the Bellamy Salute. And let's see if we got that up there now. And let's bring that up on the screen. Where is it? The Bellamy Salute. Children performing the Bellamy Salute to the flag of the United States. 1941. Who else was going like this in 1941? Does that mean Bellamy was a communist, was a fascist? No. Does that mean that the Nazis copied our salute from us and stole it? Maybe. But of course, all this is Roman. All of this is the Ave of Ave Caesar. Hail Caesar. Hail Caesar. So you see, whether it's the socialist Baptist, whatever he was, Bellamy guy, going for church and state, he's for an empire. It's just a secular empire. Whereas the Dulles brothers and, better dead than red folks of the 50s are going for a God empire. They both are imitating the Roman salute. And that, of course, is the dream of people like Boris Johnson, who was a great lover of the Roman Empire. Other of these creeps, these puppets that they put in place for us to either worship or hate, but really have no sense that we have any power to change things. But you know what would change things? 100 million votes for Richard Stans. 100 million votes to make America America again. They couldn't deal with that, could they? All right, that's my Mindfields for today. Thanks again for everybody for being with me. I hope that you have had a great morning so far, and it's a beautiful day out there. I'm going to go out and get some sunshine. Bye now.